All right, let's jump right in. We're going to be talking about this really fascinating idea called ONMO. And what it is a way of thinking about one of the biggest questions there is. How does something truly new, I mean genuinely novel, actually come into being? How does reality itself take a giant leap forward?
To really get our heads around this, we have to start by questioning something we all take for granted, something that feels like the most basic rule in the book.
No, I mean, seriously, think about that for a second. What if, in certain incredibly rare but absolutely critical moments, putting two things together didn't just give you two of them, but something else entirely, something fundamentally, qualitatively new?
Okay, so this might look a little intimidating, right? Like some kind of alien math. But trust me, it's not as complicated as it looks. This is basically the recipe, the grammar, for that exact idea we were just talking about. It shows how two things can combine, not just by adding up, but by going through a total transformation. Let's break it down. Here's the perfect way to make this concrete. You know, on one side, you've got simple addition. One stone plus one stone is just two stones. Nothing's really changed. But on the other side, a sperm and an egg, they don't just add up. They combine to create a zygote. And that is a completely new kind of thing, with a future that neither the sperm nor the egg had on its own. That's not just a sum, that is a genuine act of creation.
So to really understand this incredible process of creation, the ONMO framework gives us a new vocabulary, really a whole new grammar to describe how these leaps actually happen.
Everything begins in this state called switch and halt. The best way to think about it is as the silent potential before the main event. It's the stable moment where things just exist, like the sperm and the egg, separate. Time hasn't really started ticking for them yet. It's just pure, untapped potential, holding its breath.
And then, bam, the fold. This is the critical moment. It's a rare, powerful event that completely shatters that quiet stability of Zwischenhalt. This is the instant of fertilization, or on a cosmic scale, you could think of it as the Big Bang. And the key thing here is that it's irreversible. There's no going back. A massive change has just been kicked off. So what comes out on the other side of that rupture? That's ONMO. And yeah, Ontic Next Magnitudal Order is a bit of a mouthful, I know, but all it really means is the brand new, stable reality that's just been created. It's not just a small change, it's a massive leap to a totally different level of existence. It's like reality just leveled up.
So this sequence is absolutely crucial. You start with swish and halt. That's the silent potential. Then comes the fold, the irreversible rupture, and that gives birth to ONMO, a fundamentally new reality. It's the step-by-step logic of how a zygote is born from a sperm and an egg.
Okay, so now that we've got the basic language down, let's zoom out a bit. Because to really understand just how special ONMO is, you have to see where it fits in with all the other ways things work in the universe. So how can we tell if an ONMO event has actually happened? Is there some kind of signal? Well, yes, there is. It's called the structured surplus, represented by beta. In regular addition, there's no surplus, right? 1 plus 1 is just 2. But in an ONMO event, this beta value is huge. It's the measurable extra that proves something brand new has been created, something that is way more than just the sum of its parts. This framework lets us sort of categorize reality. Most of what happens out there is pretty straightforward. You've got your linear systems, just things piling up. You've got your predictable clockwork systems, like planets moving. Then there's chaos and the really interesting complex adaptive systems, or CAS, like an ecosystem that regulates itself. But all the way down at the bottom, in a class completely its own, you see ONMO. And just look at how rare it is. Wow, that tiny little 1% sliver of the pie, that's it. That's all the ONMO events. Their incredible rarity is exactly what makes them so unbelievably important. They don't happen often, but when they do, they change absolutely everything. And this is probably the biggest takeaway here. An ONMO event doesn't just tweak an existing system. It creates an entirely new playing field with a totally new rulebook. You know, a zygote doesn't follow the rules of a sperm or an egg anymore. It kicks off a brand new game called human development. And once you really let that sink in, you start to see ONMO as something much bigger than just a scientific model. It starts to feel, well, more profound. Almost like it's the fundamental rhythm of how the universe grows and becomes something more. This leads us to a really mind-bending, kind of wild idea.
We always think of things happening in time, right? Like time is this big container that everything unfolds inside of. But what if that's completely backwards? This framework suggests that time itself, the whole idea of a before and an after, is actually born from these ONMO events. They don't just happen in history, they create history. So, to wrap it all up, it all starts in Zwischenhalt, that silent potential. It's ignited by the fold, the rupture that changes everything. This creates ONMO, a whole new order of being. And the proof, the signal that it really happened, is beta, that measurable surplus of newness. The whole thing gives us a complete grammar for true emergence. So this way of thinking is an amazing lens for looking at the past, the Big Bang, the origin of life, you name it. But it also leaves us with this huge and maybe even urgent question about what's coming. If this is the grammar for how the world fundamentally changes, you just have to wonder, what leap is building in its silent potential right now?